Thank you guys for joining us. My name is Avidon M. Respes, Director of Business Development with BRIODS Mindset, Media, and Music, where we cover all things related to your mindset, all things related to media, and everything that is related to music. And right here we have Patrick Tugwell. He's a 26-year-old entrepreneur, okay, from the Northern VA area. Last year I had the pleasure of interviewing him, and that was the first time we even got to meet, right? So the second time that we're meeting, you know, we're in another stage right now. We've accomplished a lot of our goals, a lot of different dreams that we had, and now we're touching base on the next level type of things. So I'm not gonna share, I know I have his bio right here, but I'm gonna let him share his story a little bit, right? If you guys can check the other video out, it's on Facebook. Make sure you look at that because you can get a great understanding of why you need to start in business. And you know, right now, Mr. Patrick Tugwell is going to go into, you know, his entrepreneurial journey and what is to come. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You know, it's really neat. It's funny because I actually have a little bit of a beard going on this time.
Yeah,
the last time we were outside in Maryland, it was freezing. I remember it was windy, and you know, we were just on a camera phone, and that was all we had. And you know, now we're in a full setup in a studio. So I appreciate you having me and putting all this together.
Definitely.
But yeah, kind of a little behind my background. So grew up in Northern Virginia. You know, no real business background coming out of college. I did have a finance degree. Graduated from UNC down in North Carolina. Came up after,
Nice.
I graduated a year early. Because kind of the deal with my parents was if I went out of state, I had to graduate early.
How was that? Sorry, because I don't think we covered this the first time.
Yeah,
How was that pressure?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was good. It kind of motivated me to take a heavier course load. I was also working in college, and I was also in a fraternity, so I had a lot.
That was a lot. That was a lot going on.
Yeah, it was a good time though. I learned a lot. And
now, what type of student were you in high school? Because you know, a lot of, I'm noticing my entrepreneurial journey, it comes from my childhood. A lot of things that I did, you know, as a kid. So like in school, were you like, you know, a leader? Were you on like, you know, the board or something like that? Like,
yeah, it's funny because I really didn't feel like I had that. I didn't have any brothers or sisters growing up, so it was just kind of like I just saw other people doing it after college, and I wanted a certain specific type of lifestyle, and I always knew that in order to get that, I had to follow people who were doing it already.
Right.
That was really key, and you know, a lot of people try to reinvent the wheel, but I feel like, you know, why reinvent the wheel if somebody's already doing it the right way? You can learn a lot from just watching them.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what was your first experience or interaction with wealth?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting because I like I said, I got out of college. I had no business experience. I went and did what everybody says you should do, which is to go build the resume and, you know, kind of find a job and work in the field that you just paid a bunch of money for to get a piece of paper. And, you know, I got the piece of paper and I was like, okay, you know, I got hired back in the restaurant that I worked at in high school as a manager. And then I came back and I was like, well, I can work during the day. And if I work more hours, I'll make more money. And so I got a job as an accountant during the day, and I was hitting rush hour traffic going back and forth. I worked pretty much every day for about a year, a little over a year, about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And it was a good time for me. I made a good amount of income, but I had no time. And that was something that, you know, a lot of people struggle with. They have the income, they have the financial side, but they have no time to use the income that they've made.
Definitely.
Yeah, and there's an interesting quote that I talk about a lot, is that there's a lot of people that spend the first half of their years, their lifetime, making money and losing their health, and then they spend all that money on the second half of their life for the health.
That's facts.
Yeah.
That's definitely facts, because, you know, when people get to, I don't know if you know, like the 45-year plan, but yeah. So when you get to that retirement age, you know, now it's not 65. Now it's more like, you know, 70, 73. You're not retiring anymore, right. But, you know.
It doesn't exist anymore, yeah.
Facts. So, like, getting to the 65, you know, you have all this time, but you're like, oh, I'm old now. You know, what can I really do? I have this money because I built up my retirement, my pension, all these different things. You know, I got my kids, you know, if anything, they can help me out, whatever, but I don't have my youth so much anymore.
Right.
So, was there somebody, because, all right, you know, everybody around you was telling you, you know, to get a good job. You know, you got a good job.
Yeah.
You're in finances, and we know finances, they do pretty well.
Right.
But even still, why was time so important to you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. This is something that I'm really passionate about, is because I always put family first. Family was huge for me, and I knew growing up that I wanted to be able to set up my future family for the same lifestyle that my parents gave to me, which was my dad was able to work from home. My mom made a really good income, worked her way up 30 years in the same company, from a buyer, saw an ad in the newspaper.
Amazing.
Now she's a lead systems analyst of a major corporation.
Wow.
And so she made a good income. My dad worked in sales for a long time and worked from home.
Yeah.
So when I was growing up as a kid, he was able to, you know, help me with my studying, my spelling quizzes. If it was pouring down rain, you know, he would drive me to the bus stop, and just the little things that when you're 8 you don't appreciate. But when you're 28, 26, you know, 30, you really start to appreciate those little things.
Definitely.
And how it assists you in your growth process as a kid.
Right.
And so I that was a passion of mine, and I knew that working as an accountant, I was working about 85 hours a week at that point.
85 hours.
Yeah, and I really didn't have any time, and I knew that I couldn't sustain that forever. Like, I wanted to have a family, I wanted to have kids. I still don't have kids, but I know I will, you know, at some point, and just whenever that comes into play, I'll have already set myself up for just the time freedom to be able to, you know, coach their baseball team and do little things like that. So
definitely.
Yeah.
So you're in accounting. What business did you automatically get introduced to the business that you're in, or did you like try some other things? Did you think, yo, maybe I'll try this, I'll do that? You know, like, how did you really start business?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I got involved with the company I'm with now, actually, straight out of working as an accountant. So,
did we say the name? Yeah.
Nerim, yeah. So
Okay.
Nerim International, we actually just had a huge brand overhaul, so the new name of the company is Neora.
Nice.
Neora. And that was the company I started with about 4 years ago. And it's in the industry of network marketing, which is an interesting industry because we get, you know, it gets a lot of good media and a lot of bad media.
Right.
You know, and some of the names I agree with. You know, they're just like any other industry. There are good
Do you
people.
mind if we tackle some of that bad media real
quick? Of course,
quick? Because
absolutely.
I actually started in network marketing. I mean, that's honestly, you know, how we're even here today, because network marketing, they were like, look, if you're going to do it, make sure that there's a system behind it.
Yep.
Make sure that the product you can believe in, and make sure that you can actually make money from it. I mean, if it doesn't have that, if the team, you guys can't vibe, if they're like, you know, secretive or whatever, you need to really reconsider it. But yeah, how do you feel about the whole network marketing?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with the industry is a lot of people, the bad rap is that nobody makes any money. That's like the biggest rap. And what's interesting is it's true. About 3% of people make a really, really high income in network marketing. But that's true across all industries.
Right.
So if you notice, like, 5% of businesses make it past 5 years, and only 1% make it for a long, long time. So it's very not sustainable and very difficult to win in franchising, you know, starting your own brick and mortar business. And especially now with social media and stuff, you see a lot of people doing well on social media, and then these brick and mortars closing because they're driving e-commerce more because of Amazon and these different, you know, outlets. So it's interesting how things are starting to change now. When I got started about 4 years ago, I feel like there's been a big shift in the way that people's thinking process is for business.
Right.
Like, I think even just 4 or 5 years ago, people were still kind of in that mindset of like, I don't know if it's going to sustain long term with Amazon, and you know, now it's basically $1 trillion company. And so I think people have finally understood that word of mouth advertising is the way that things are going. You know, Netflix now, you know, that didn't exist back then, and you know, now you skip commercials and you binge watch, and you know, there's no waiting anymore. So it's like people want it now, and they want to be able to have that ease and access and trust the people that they're buying from. And so if it's your friends, family, and neighbors that are sharing the product or service with you, you're automatically going to be more trusting versus a commercial, a billboard, or something else, you know.
Right, because this is like your first time like trying it, like, oh, I don't know.
Right.
And you're going off of like whoever this guy is on the TV's feedback, you know?
Right.
Like, and then you actually get it, and then half the time it's not even what you order.
Well, and that's the key with the product, right? So the product has to stand on its own, whether there was a business attached to it or not. And I think that is a bad rap that the industry gets a lot, is that people are out there selling business centers versus actually selling a product. And, you know, there's legalities behind the percentages of what a company needs to sell in product versus what distributors are buying. But I think at the end of the day, again, there are good companies and bad companies in every industry.
Definitely.
And you just need to align yourself with the right ones.
Right.
So
and going to like that 3%, like that's not too off from, you know, the 1% that actually make money in the world,
right,
and like the 5% that are actually, you know, wealthy, quote unquote.
Right.
So for people to actually complain that, oh, you know, only 3% of the people, you know, that's not really too good. The one upstairs.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that one. Right.
There we go. Yeah, so I think, you know, when it comes down to the industry, you're looking for a couple of things. You're looking for, like I said, a product that's sustainable, something that people are buying frequently, not just a one-time purchase. So typically a consumable product or service is important because you'll have that residual income coming in. Right. You know, you want the product obviously needs to work. That's crucial. There needs to be a system in place so that you can train the distributors that you're getting started, which is tough because a lot of people, they have a system, but it's not a sustainable or duplicatable system. And so people think it's too complicated. And if you sit down and you sit over for an hour over coffee and you explain to them the whole business, they're like, that's great, but I don't have the time to learn all that information, nor do I want to do that to my friends, family, and neighbors.
Thanks.
So it's really important for those things. And then obviously a business that you know is going to be around. Like the leadership has to be in place so that you know and trust the leaders, that it's not just like a 6-month run and then that's it, you know, that you have to hop to the next thing.
So why New York? Like what did it for you?
Yeah, so there's several pieces. Jeff Olson is our founder and CEO. He's our figurehead of the company. He's been in the industry for, I think, like 40-something years. He was a top distributor in another company several years ago. He's owned several companies in the industry, and I feel like this was what he called his last run. Which was, out of all of his experience in business, he was a top exec in Texas Instruments. Then he owned a solar company, so a traditional business. Then he went into network marketing. So he kind of has a big, broad field of experience. And he wrote a book called The Slight Edge, which I highly recommend to everybody that's watching. Yeah, I know we talked about that. That's an amazing book, right? Yeah, and it's been used by Fortune 100 companies as far as their training platforms and things. And so he used all that knowledge and really poured all of that into the original company, Miriam, about 7.5 years ago. And we launched one company and did $100 million in sales just in the U.S., just with that one product. So I knew this was about year 3 when I saw the company. At that point, we had already done almost $500,000 in sales in just 3 years in just 3 countries.
Wow.
So, you know, that I knew that it was sustainable. I knew it was a train that was going, whether I was on it or not. And I wanted to be a part of it. And so I started a very part-time, spare time. You know, I was still working 85 hours a week. And after about 1.5 years of just going out there, following the system that we had, you know, I was able to replace my incomes, and I've been full-time in the industry for a little over 2.5 years. Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's amazing success. And you know, we're just gonna take a quick break and you know, grab some refreshments, and you know, stay tuned. We're here with Patrick Tugwell. Appreciate you guys. Great success. Man, it's awesome. I met him on Facebook in one of the Facebook groups, and you know, a huge thing that's been going around is networking, but we're not even going to talk about that because that's a whole nother topic. And as you can see, networking is huge. You got to get around power players that are actually making moves, that are getting stuff done. Okay, enough talking about it. it's time to make the moves and stop you. So, I'm over here with DJ Conti, and, thanks for letting me come out here.
Appreciate it, bro.
And
appreciate you having me.
Definitely. So, let's start with your story, story into, his purpose in life. So, thank you, Roman. I appreciate you coming on here.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you.
Definitely.
Getting me on your show.
Yeah, awesome. Definitely. Hi, my name is Avidon M. Respes, and I'm the business director for BRIODS, Mindset, Media, and Music, where we cover all things related to your mindset, to the media that goes out into the world, and to the music that you listen to each and every day. Now, some of the reasons why I chose mindset, media, and music are as such. Mindset is key to success. If you don't have the right mindset, you'll never be able to advance in any area of your life. Anything that you want to get better at, it takes the proper mindset in order to overcome those challenges to level up in that area. Media. Once you start to develop, your game plan for success, you need exposure. Now, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, I work with a lot of influencers and content creators, so media exposure is so crucial to making the proper money each and every day, each and every week, each and every month. So the right media will get you the right attention to get you the right money. And music, from the time that you're born, from the time even before that, since you start to become conceived into your mother's womb, or if you were made in an incubator, but that's neither here nor there, but from the time that you're able to hear music, vibrations, sounds, they're all around you. And in each and every movie, TV show, whatever you surround yourself with, there's always some sort of melody that's going around. So, mindset, media, and music. If you want to change your life, you need to focus on one of these three areas. Because no matter what, if you help people develop and change their mindsets for success, you're going to win. If you help people develop their content, if you help them get more exposure, you're going to win. And if you help people develop their music, or even if you have your own music, if you create content, if you have some sort of curriculum, get started today. Connect with me, and I'll help you develop the game plan, develop the strategies, and build on everything that you need in order to be the person that you want to become. And not just the person that you want to become, but the person that the world needs you to become. So register, click the link, whatever you need to do to get in contact with me, and I'll see you soon. Thank you guys for joining us in this second segment where we're covering Patrick Tugwell's successes, his life story, and pretty much what he's doing with Neura and their expansions. And we left off with why he started getting into network marketing first and foremost. How he was in finance. Yes, he was in finance. It's not like he was working at some supermarket or not that anything's wrong with that. But I'm just saying, the dude's in finance, he's making decent money, and a lot of people are like, oh, network marketing, this and that. And this business professional that is, dealing with accounts, that's dealing with a lot of sums of money, is like, you know what? I see the opportunity in network marketing, even though 3% of the people are succeeding, I could be that 3%. He didn't say, that's something out there. He believed in his abilities, right? He graduated early from UNC. I mean, that's already that's an accomplishment. I mean, I'm a college dropout, you know, but everybody has their own pathways. And all of the different challenges that you overcome, they lead to something. So, you know, thank you, Patrick, again for, you know, returning for the second segment. And, you know, let's dive into, you know, we see here you lead worship, and I think you covered that a little bit, you know, before. So let's go into that, you know, because I know this is new.
Yeah, it is.
Music all of a sudden just started happening.
Yeah.
So what's up?
Well, so it's neat because I actually have been singing in choirs and been involved in music since I was a little kid.
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't know that until I got to high school. I started in the guitar ensemble. We had an acoustic guitar ensemble, steel string, at my high school, at Herndon High School, and I was in the top ensemble as a freshman. And it's because I had been playing for several years. I started, I think, when I was 12, like 11, 12 years old. And so
Did you
going
have any training or anything?
Yeah, I took
Okay.
private lessons and, you know, played for a while on my own, and was never in like a band or a group or anything. But then I got really into it in high school. I was playing baseball and also doing that, you know, after school
Yeah,
and
the
stuff.
you
Full
really
load.
always have a full plate. Like
I feel like, yeah, and you know, it's interesting how, like, I feel like I can get a lot of things done, and I'm actually more motivated and driven when I'm busy. Like,
Okay.
it's when there's days, I feel like you get caught in this cycle sometimes where you're just doing the same one thing over and over, and I feel like that's when you burn out.
right.
But I'm able to use, like, different aspects of my personality and different parts of my brain on the creative side versus the business side, and it's been neat.
Yeah.
But like I said, I was in the top ensemble. I actually won the music award for the high school my senior year. And so I'm on a plaque in the music department, which is pretty neat. And so then after high school, of course, you know, I wanted to pursue that. That was what I actually wanted to do. And my parents were like, you know, you're not getting a job with that. Like, don't do a music major.
Right.
So, which I was actually fortunate for, because then I went into business and got that aspect as well.
Right.
But during college, I didn't play that much, you know, and it was kind of getting away from it. And then we can touch on this later, but I lived in Latin America for about 2 years. For the last about 6 months ago, I got back. So the 2 years prior to that, I was living down there. And I came back full circle. I was playing in my church worship band for the last 3 years. And one of my best friends since we were like 4 was leading worship at my hometown church.
Yeah.
It's literally spitting distance from where I grew up. And he ended up stepping down to pursue his job and career. And so the church was looking for somebody.
Really?
And because I was in the band, the congregation already knew me. And so I was...
Funny how stuff like just
Yeah.
comes together.
Yeah, it's amazing how the timing is. It was honestly a blessing, because had it been 6 months prior or 6 months later, I probably wouldn't have taken it.
Wow.
Because 6 months prior, I was in another country, and 6 months from now, who knows?
Yeah.
And so, you know, it just worked out perfect timing, and they didn't even think I was going to consider it, because my traveling and the schedule was so crazy.
Right.
They didn't think it was a possibility, but it actually keeps me sane now, because I have to be back on Sundays to play in the church. So
Right.
I can't just be like, okay, it's Tuesday, Thursday I'm out, I'm just going to fly somewhere for a month. Like, I don't, it keeps me more sane, like with my scheduling.
Yeah.
But it's been a blessing, and it's been a cool avenue to be able to pursue God and also pursue music, you know, back again. So
Now, have you always had, you know, a relationship with God?
yeah, so I didn't grow up in the church. So, you know, we went to church usually like once or twice a year for like Christmas Eve and Easter, which is like the big two.
Yeah.
And but I always considered myself a Christian, but you know, I always believe that you believe what you believe. I never impose my beliefs on anyone else. But I believe very strongly that, you know, that I'm a son of God, and that was always in my beliefs, but I never pursued it. Like, I never went to church on my own accord when I was a kid. It was just kind of like, okay, parents are going, I'm going.
Right.
And I made a conscious decision this time to be a part of the church, which is different from when you're like 3.
Now,
And you just, you know, you're being baptized, you don't even know why. You know,
Yeah.
so it's a conscious decision.
what made you make that decision? Because, you know, I'm sure you notice, like, nowadays, hold on, give me a second.
Yeah.
Nowadays, a lot of people have issues and trouble, you know, finding God and having faith, and, you know, is God talking to me and this and that. What brought you back? You know, like, did something happen, or was it just like some awakening that took place?
Yeah, it's interesting. So they actually say that after the age of 25, most people only learn from traumatic crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So like some sort of crisis that happens in your life, that's when people learn and make big change. But actually for me, I didn't feel like I've never really had a big event. It was just me being invited, actually, for somebody actually reached out. And it's kind of the same concept we talk about in sales.
Right.
It's like the worst thing they can say is no, but the answer is always no if you don't ask.
Right.
And so the friend of mine that was leading worship invited me to play in their band after he got that position about 3 years ago. And that's what got me going again. But then I started traveling. Right. So then it was me plugging in they have a streaming so that I can listen to it on Sundays. And so I was still plugging in even when I was overseas. Right. And when I came back, like I said, I got the opportunity, and that was when I took the opportunity to actually lead it. And so, amazing. So now I'm the contemporary worship leader at the church. So it's cool how it goes full circle. Yeah.
Right. So Latin America. Yeah. What led you there? Was it Europe, or did you just happen to?
No, I didn't just stumble into Colombia. Yeah, I had no links to Latin America.
Okay. So Colombia to be exact.
Specifically, Colombia. And then I did travel to a few other countries, but I was living in Bogota, which is the capital. And what's neat is I was down there for about 2 years. And like I said, I didn't know Spanish when I went down there the first time.
Right.
I had one good friend of mine who went to a rival high school up here, actually, in Northern Virginia. And it was funny because he was from Colombia, but at that time I was the typical, ignorant American. I didn't know the difference between Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil. I really didn't know the difference. And so he never mentioned it, so I never knew. And the company was going to launch into Colombia in about 3 years ago, I found out. Yeah. And I looked at it for several reasons. I knew it was a niche because I know there's very few people in the U.S. as far as leadership in my company that spoke fluent Spanish. And now I didn't either. So most people would think, well, how would you ever lead anything? Most people wouldn't even try. Right. And I was looking at it as an opportunity, which is what I try to look at everything as, even when it's a difficulty, try to look at the opportunity side. And most people don't, and that's where you get the opportunity. Definitely. So I looked at it as an opportunity. I went down there in January, actually, to actually do some business. So I had a couple of connections through Gabriel, the guy that was a friend of mine. We went down there. He actually turned out he was in network marketing before, so he's personally developed. He understood leadership and things, and so we had good conversation, just like you and I do. Definitely. And went down there. I stayed with his family for a couple weeks, and we actually traveled to the coast for his uncle's 50th birthday, and got to meet basically the Tony Bennett of Latin America, which was pretty neat.
So it was all perfect.
It was this whole this whirlwind of Latin culture just kind of hit me, and I loved it. I ate it up, and I was the one gringo, the one outsider, and it was but it was neat for business because then people were like, why is this guy here? And so then they're automatically curious, and then I'm like, well, let me tell you, it was pretty simple convo, and so we did some really good business, and I went back several times in a 3-4 month period, and then I was like, I'm spending rent money in flights, so I should probably invest into this because I was making enough at the time to justify it. Right. And I made the decision in March of 2016 to learn the language because I knew that I couldn't have a full understanding of their culture nor have a good conversation one-on-one with a translator app. It's not the same, and they don't understand you, and they'll never fully open up. Right, and they'll never take you serious like that. Really, especially for business. You have to know the language to fully understand everything. And so I made the decision in March, and I was so dedicated about it. I would read every day. I had the Slight Edge actually in Spanish, and I would read every fifth word I didn't know. And so I would stop. I had my phone on the translator app. I'd translate the word and write a couple words of describing it. It'd take me a day to get one page done. But
that's dedication, though.
Yeah, and it was reading it. It was obviously texting now is big, and so autocorrect helped. Listening to audios, listening to music in Spanish. It was a full montage, a full just kind of experience that I threw myself into, and then obviously being there and having conversations were key. And by October, I was doing full presentations in Spanish. Wow! So it was a pretty rapid pace, and I think one thing that I touch on with that is a lot of people think that I could never do that.
Right.
And it's really just a cop-out. It's kind of a justification for the fact that they haven't learned it, because I know a lot of people that want to know Spanish,
Right.
but they never learned it because they never really sat down and started. People love the quantum leap. It's the same thing in the gym. They make a decision in January to go to the gym again, and by February they're not going. And, by now, basically, they've given up on the resolution. And so it's the consistency when other people are not watching that provides the success you're looking for in any aspect of life. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's business or life. Anything. The persistency and the consistency will produce the result you're looking for. And so it was the same thing with the language. And I felt like I was, maybe from the musician aspect, I had a good ear, so I picked things up quickly. I don't know. I think it was just a combination.
Definitely.
And so that was what got me to Latin America, and I was living there, going back and forth for about 2 years, and just came back up in August.
This past
This past August, yeah.
Wow.
Yes, and now I'm back here because working in the church and stuff.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
So,
it's cool.
how is business and travel and managing that? Because we already see that you're good at managing a lot of stuff on your plate. So travel is a whole nother aspect, because you got team members in a whole nother country.
Right.
You're not just in a whole nother state. Now they're in a whole nother country. So as a young entrepreneur, young business guy, I'm sure you're dealing with older people, because older individuals are serious. I'm not saying that we're not, but you already see what time it is.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that, and how do you really continue to grow within that? Because I'm pretty sure some people might take a couple shots. You're young, this and that, whatever, but you do very well. So how do you maintain?
Well, I appreciate that. I think, a lot of it's priorities, right? So I travel not because necessarily I have to.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are some companies where you're actually an employee of that company, and they force you to travel like a certain amount of time out of the year. I travel to the regions that I feel like are most lucrative. So if like a certain amount of people are getting together and they're doing events and they're excited and there's growth in that region, then I'm going to fly there to support.
Right.
And we do events, we do trainings, whatever language. It's pretty much the same training regardless if it's, whatever country. We keep it pretty simple and duplicatable for that reason.
Right.
So that you could fly to another country and they're doing the same system as you, just in a different language. And so, with traveling, I think I actually like traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't, but I feel like nowadays with our generation, most people do want to travel.
Yeah.
So that's like a big selling feature that people see when they see our lifestyles and stuff, and they're like, I would love to just be able to fly to Guam whenever, and like the Bahamas, and take vacations and do all this stuff.
Leave,
Well, right, and it's kind of, the people always want the result, but they're not willing to put the action in to actually get the result.
Yeah.
And that's the front end activity to provide the lifestyle that you really are looking for.
Definitely.
And so you're not going to get that working as a clerk in a supermarket, like you mentioned. Like, you might be able to save up a lot of money and take a vacation once a year, but it's not the lifestyle you're looking for. And for things to change, you have to change something you're doing. And so I think, that's the crucial key. Like, are you on the track to provide the lifestyle you're looking for?
Definitely.
And if you're not on that track and don't see it as potential, you need to change something or add something.
Yeah. That's such facts, because like so many people, like, they're continuing to do the same thing. And I mean, not to be all cliche, but Einstein said it, you do the same thing, and if you're expecting different results, I mean, you're insane.
It's a definition of insanity, yeah.
It's insanity. So why? But I believe that really leads us into our final topic of opportunity, consistency, and quantum leaping. Because like I said, again, not to bring the age into it, but like, we gotta really motivate, inspire, and lead our generation, because people are looking for opportunities. I don't know if they're scared. I don't know if they're really looking. I don't know if they're paying attention. But they're acting like opportunities are out there for them to really succeed and get ahead. So all these things you've done them in a short amount of time. Now, that's not saying it's a get rich quick or overnight or something like that. It's just that consistency. You noticed the opportunity, and what is it exactly, like, how do you get into that quantum leap? Because I want to hear, like...
Yeah, so there's several topics there. So one is, when it comes to work, like they always say, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, right?
Yeah.
And I really do believe that, I think. But the problem is people ask the wrong question. So a lot of times people will say, well, just follow your passion. But they don't even know what that means. Like, they think passion, they think like something that like vamps you up at all times, which obviously there's never a person in the world that's like vamped all the time, that's just like excited all the time.
Right.
You can make a conscious decision to be in a good mood or be happy or that sort of thing, but there's ups and downs. We face challenges. No one's superhuman.
Yeah.
And so that comes into play. But I think people ask the wrong question, right? So people always say like, what do you want to do? That's a big question when you're growing up. Especially people our age, are like, if you haven't figured it out now, what do you want to do? That's the biggest question. But I think you're asking the wrong question. You shouldn't say, what do you want to do? It should be, what do you want? So if you know what you want and what you want your life to look like, then you can kind of work down the road 50, 60 years and work backwards. Right. So like if okay, I want a certain lifestyle, when I'm 70, how is my life going to look if I'm starting in an area where it's not that avenue, like it's not that path to get to that end result? Right. So if you know the end result, then automatically you'll know if you're going in the right direction. It's not like your compass could be going a totally different direction and then you're going to end up not in the right place. And they always say, like, imagine going to a shooting range without a target. Like, you'd just be shooting at the wall,
right? And
you'd end up with, anything would do. You just have holes all over the place, and that would be what you settle with. So I think it's funny, but it's true. It's like, so you need a target in order to hit what you're looking for. And you see it even in just relationships. We didn't really touch on that, but with marriage and things, I mean, I see a lot of friends.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of friends of mine, they're already married, and that's great for them, but you see the situation where 10 years down the road, they're on different paths, and all of a sudden their kids are 18, 20, they go off to college, and now it's just them two. They look back at each other and they're like, I don't even know why I love you anymore.
Wow.
And it's because they weren't working toward the end goal together. They were just raising their kids. And it was all living vicariously through the kids for about 18, 20 years. Right. And then all of a sudden, boom, they're 45 and they buy a Corvette. Like, and that solves nothing. Like, that's just...
now, how do you feel about, relationships, since we just jumped on this topic?
Yeah, it's a big topic.
Relationships and entrepreneurship. Because, I'm going to be honest, I feel like it's a little... It can be a little rocket and manage sometimes, You're like...
For sure.
Because, she wants time, and you want to give her time, you want to do stuff. I mean... And at the same time, you're like, yo, but I got a meeting over here. I got this to do. So, are you in a relationship?
I'm not right now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but I will say, though, just from personal experience and what I've seen from other people, I don't claim to be an expert on relationships, but I read. Right. But I do read a lot on psychology. It's a definite hot spot for me, and I love reading about it. And, it's interesting, like, there's a book called The 5 Love Languages, and it's a really key book, and it talks about the 5 different love languages that people live in.
Right.
And when you're in a relationship, a lot of times what people do is they give what they want to receive, which is reasonable. That's what we're taught to do. The problem is, imagine a scenario where a husband and wife are together. Husband comes home, he takes the garbage out because he's an acts of service person. So he takes the garbage out without her asking for it. Well, she's a words of affirmation person, so he didn't tell her that he loved her.
Right.
So he takes the garbage out thinking that action will serve as the justification for I love you. And she goes, well, if you really love me, you take the garbage out every day. So it's that concept. And then they butt heads because they're both not getting what they're giving.
Definitely.
But in reality, to solve that problem, you need to give to the other person what their love language is.
Right.
So give what they want to receive, and the other person does the same thing, and then you jive.
Right.
And so I think, that's the key with the relationship, even in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Because we run into that, you're busy and the consistency and things, and one other piece of that is that a lot of times people say you should work, like both pieces of the relationship, the husband and wife or whatever, should be doing different things. Like you should be working in different areas so that you don't go crazy. I'm totally on the opposite end of that.
I feel like, it should like, you guys should be able to be a team on like pretty much everything. I mean, like, you don't got to be up each other's butts or on each other's backs, but it's like, yo, like, even though you have your own thing over here, I got mine. We should be able to collab somewhere on something or on some things, or you come over here, help me with my stuff a little bit. I go over here, help you with yours, and that's how we grow.
Yeah.
Right. But a lot of people, they don't really understand business or relationships like that.
Right.
And just like going to the love languages. She's like, all right, well, I need words of affirmation. You don't ever tell me, I love you or anything. And he's like, but I'm taking the garbage out.
Right, exactly.
I'm showing you. And,
Exactly.
and she's like, no, but you don't tell me.
Well,
So,
and I think with relationships it's crucial because how many people do you see that they have all the money in the world, they have a successful business, you'd think they'd be really happy, but their relationship is so rocky.
Yeah.
So when they go home, they're depressed, and they're not fully fulfilled because their relationship's not happy.
right.
And so it's a big piece, and that's why it's important for everyone that's watching that you focus on your relationship if you have one, and if you don't, you should be spending, regardless if you have one or you don't, you should be spending a lot of time growing you. If
Right.
both parties work on growing themselves, both parties will grow together. And it's crucial because if one's growing and the other's not, 5 years from now, the one has grown a lot in those 5 years and the other one hasn't. And now you look back and you're like, I don't.
Right.
And you see the thing with them going on different paths that 10 years, 13 years, 14 years later, whatever, all of a sudden they look back at each other and they don't know each other. But that's when the husband or wife ends up with the secretary because they're in the same field,
Right.
so they understand each other's issues and the busyness and the
And
scheduling.
that perception of togetherness.
Yeah, and
stuff.
they're spending a lot of time together and stuff, and then the wife or the husband's doing something else, and they don't understand each other, and they're in totally different
right.
paths in their lives.
And they try to talk, and they can't really, have the right communication.
Right. And so I think at the end of the day, the keys there are growing you, always working on yourself, feeding into the other person's love language. Obviously, you have to know who you are before you can ever expect someone else to know who you are. So it's crucial to know who you are and know what you're looking for. That way you won't settle.
Yeah.
Because if you know every aspect of the relationship you're looking for, when you get into something, you'll quickly get out of it if it's not that. It won't take you a year to figure out if it's worth it. You'll figure it out in a month, which
Right.
takes someone else a year, and then you're like, well, I just wasted all this time.
Now, do you have particular things that you look for in a relationship?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, for me, I spend a lot of time growing myself.
Yeah.
So you're always looking for somebody that's growing at the same speed or faster, somebody that can challenge you and they don't have to be the same person. And you're not ever going to find the same person. We're all unique and we're all looking for different things. But, someone that challenges you, I think sense of humor is crucial.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sarcastic sometimes, so it's you got to be able to understand that and stuff. But then also the flexibility, right? That, he or she can have the confidence that there's no jealousy. Okay, I go to a meeting with a female or the female goes to a meeting with a male. It's just business.
Right.
It doesn't have to be an issue there. And so it's just, there's a lot of aspects. But I do feel like everybody who's watching this should have a checklist of ideal characteristics in the other person and that you're looking for. Because again, if you have no target, anything will do.
Right.
And so I think it's crucial when you're dealing with relationships. People do this in business all the time. They set goals and targets, but they don't do it in relationships. And I'm like, that's a huge aspect of your life that you should have goals. So, definitely, and it's no cooler than having a relationship where you're both setting goals together.
Right.
That's pretty neat. And it's pretty exciting.
Definitely. What's something that, you want to leave the audience with and something that, before you even came here, you're like, you know what, I really would like to touch on this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd like you to share that.
Yeah, so I really always try to do everything that I do in my life based on heart. I try to lead through heart. It's really my goal. And, it's interesting where you see business and issues in relationships and all the aspects that we talked about today, all the different categories of life. You see issues when there's people not leading through love.
Yeah.
And I try to lead in everything that I do through love and coming from a good place, really caring about the other people that you're dealing with, whether it's business, relationships, or life. You really want to care about the other people and always try to give more than you're receiving. And the key to happiness is ultimately finding your happiness. you know, and when you're happy, then you spread that to the other people you're around, and then people go, wow, he's always excited, he's always happy, like, why is it, you know, and they want to know, and it's really just a decision, you know, you just made a decision that no matter what's going to happen to you in your life, you know, everything, there's an old quote that I like a lot that talks about you're either going into stuff or you're coming out of stuff, but there's always stuff.
Right.
You know, so everybody's going through something you have no idea about. I think Plato said that. And, you know, you got to be kind because you really don't know. And, you know, we were talking about it earlier with, there's a huge topic, obviously, in America right now, and issues with, you know, just issues with different types of people, right? I mean, just different colors and different genders and different relationships. And it's like, this is my favorite sweatshirt. I feel like this is the thing I should end on, is this sweatshirt here. Yeah. And it talks about love thy neighbor, you know, in every classification thereof, you know, and it's really important to do that, because I think this world would be a better place if we just loved each other more.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it bleeds into every aspect of life.
Well, definitely, you know, I appreciate you coming out here. You know, I love you.
Likewise,
you know, brother. Like,
likewise.
It's awesome for us to, you know, reconnect and really experience each other's growth, because, you know, I love being able to follow you on social media, see you, you know, interacting with your team, see you, you know, succeeding again at such, you know, a young age. Because when I was 22, I moved to Israel. By the time I was, you know, 25, I was into business, but, you know, I wasn't at that level.
Yeah.
And now, you know, I look at, you know, we got Jiggy Woods on the camera, and he's making it happen. He's also, you know, a young guy as well.
Absolutely.
It's very inspiring, and it's very motivating for me, because, you know, as somebody that's just a little bit older, just like you said, you want somebody, you know, not just in a relationship, but you want your friends, your brothers,
Totally.
your neighbors to also be pushing you, challenging you, making sure that you're keeping accountable with the goals that you have and the successes that you're praying for.
Yeah, the laws of association.
Mm-hmm.
You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Definitely.
Totally.
And I enjoy spending time with you.
Likewise, brother.
So I appreciate you sharing your story. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, just my first and last name, Patrick, Patrick Tugwell, Tugwell. Just add the app before that, and
Definitely.
you can find me on there. Yeah.
And what about New York? Should they, like, how do they get started? Can they contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. Just get in contact with me. I'd be happy to get you some
Do
information.
they have to be in the same area, or?
No, it can be in any of the countries we're in. We're in 14 countries now globally. So if you're in a specific country that you're watching this and tuning in that's not in the U.S., just get in touch with me, and I'll do what I can for you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
God bless you, brother.
Likewise. God
Good
bless.
success.
Appreciate it.
See you guys soon.
Take it easy.